Hi, this is Dilip. Welcome to my channel, and today I am going to discuss the history part of Maharashtra Board 10th syllabus, and this first chapter is about imperialism. Now when we say imperialism, it basically means that one place being captured, ruled, dominated, or to a great extent exploited by the foreigners who come from different places, and they settle down at the new place, and there they set up their rule and they start exploiting the resources. Now this term imperialism is not a new term. Even if you look at the ancient history, we will find that there were many kings, emperors who actually annexed the nearby areas to display their military strength, to show how strong, how powerful they were in the whole region. Because at that time, the imperialism was all about status, all about power, all about show off. But the imperialism which happened in the recent time was slightly different from that. Because the imperialism which took place because of Renaissance and the European nations' rise is slightly different. It basically started with economics. They wanted certain financial benefits, but once they found those places to be ruled by weak rulers, that is when they changed their mind and they shifted their focus from finance to politics. So when we talk about modern imperialism, we basically talk about how the European countries were far ahead of other countries, how they tried to find new lands, discovered new territories, and with the help of that, they actually expanded their empire. So the beginning of this imperialism started because of certain compulsive factors. For instance, in 1453, when Constantinople was captured by the Ottoman Turk, they actually blocked the shortest route from Asia to Europe. As a result, the European traders were not able to come to Asia. So they were forced to find some new route in order to reach Asia. So that is when certain navigators of Portugal, of Spain and other countries, they set out in order to find out new land where they could sell their product, because their own market was very limited, very small. So they needed some other market where they could sell their products and make profit. So that is how this entire process started, and during that time certain scientific discoveries happened. For instance, the mariner compass was invented, a new map was constructed, and another thing which helped these navigators was the Copernicus theory, which said that Earth is like a sphere, which means you can start from one point, you can take one complete round and you can reach the same place. So keeping all these things in the mind, the navigators like John Cabot or Amerigo, they actually set out in different directions and they discovered different parts of America, eastern, northern as well as central. Once the place was discovered by these navigators, then one country went there, followed by other countries of Europe, because if you look at the map of Europe, there are so many countries very close to each other. So if anything was known to one country, another country was bound to follow it. So that is how one particular place, after getting discovered, was flooded with so many other countries. And that created a competition among them, and this competition led to certain conflicts which later on resulted in the World War. But here we are going to confine our discussion only to the imperialism factor. Out of all the European countries, England was ahead because of scientific discoveries, scientific inventions which took place first there. It was a leading country in industrial revolution. Plus economically also it was strong. So because of these factors, it always had an edge over other European countries when it came to imperialism. Now let's see what the word imperialism means. Imperialism is derived from a word imperium, which means absolute power. So imperialism, in other words, is an extended form of colonization. Now colonization is nothing but people of one country settling down on other country and then finally setting up their rule and extending their rule in terms of military strength as well as economic strength. So imperialism is very much linked to colonization, and that is what happened. European countries were far ahead in scientific inventions and other aspects, due to which when they discovered new lands, they found that these places are suitable for setting up their rule so that they could exploit the people and the resources of that place. So now we will see what are the different factors which led to imperialism. The first factor, in fact one of the most important factors, is scientific discoveries or scientific inventions. Now if you look at the history of Europe, you will find that many scientists like Newton, like Ampere, and many other scientists actually came from Europe. And they were the one who discovered new things, who discovered new machines like steam engine, which actually led to this industrial revolution and a lot of other discoveries. So these countries were ahead, were advanced in terms of this scientific knowledge as well as scientific discoveries, and that gave them a power to rule other countries which did not have this kind of asset. Second thing is the industrial revolution. As we know that in industrial revolution, the machines replaced hands, and these machines were far more efficient than individual labor. They were able to produce lots of things in a very short period of time. So when the machines started making goods, especially clothes, there was a lot of clothes being prepared or being manufactured in a short time. But the territory or the market which these European countries had was very limited, not sufficient for these goods to be consumed or to be bought by them. As a result, the traders of these countries looked for some other market where these surplus goods could be sold easily. Even that also prompted them to find new markets, new areas, new regions which could be a better consumer for whatever products they were making. The next reason for imperialism was need for raw material. As we know that there were many European countries like England, like France, like Germany, Holland, Portugal, Dutch, they all were in the race of selling their products. And because of this overcrowding of the market, there was a stiff competition for selling the products, which means they had to reduce the price of their commodity to stay in competition. And this meant that they had to procure the raw material at a very cheap price, so that the price of the finished goods is always less than their competitors. So that also prompted them to look for the places where they could get this raw material at a very low price. And that is when they found the countries like Africa, African countries or Asian countries, they were the most suitable for meeting their raw material demand. So this actually takes us to the next point, which is the prosperity of African and Asian nations. Now if we look at the natural factor or the economic factor of these two continents, we find that Africa was very rich in minerals, especially the metals, especially gold or silver or diamond. These things were there in abundance, and that is what attracted the attention of these European traders, because they found these places very profitable, where they could buy the raw material at a very low cost. Similarly, in Asian countries, they found spices at a very low price, so that attracted or brought them here. From there they used to buy and take it to their own countries. So the prosperity of Asia and Africa also contributed a lot to the rise of imperialism. Now the next point is the rise of certain powerful nations. Now during this period, Germany's were united, Italy was united, and these new powerful nations emerged, and they also wanted to jump into this race of imperialism by acquiring more and more colonies. The next point is the ambition of political domination. Now this is somewhat similar to the ancient imperialism, as we saw that the kings and emperors, they were always in search of better places where they could expand their rule, and with the help of that they could increase their name and fame. The same thing happened to the European countries also. And there was a general perception that if a particular country has more colonies, it is more powerful. It can really dominate over other European countries. So there was actually a race among these European nations to acquire more and more colonies, so that they could emerge powerful, they could emerge unchallenged, and in that region they could rise as a major superpower. So that was also one of the reasons. And apart from that, if we look at the political situation of Africa and Asia, they were actually split. There was no powerful ruler which could really resist the efforts of these European countries to capture them, and they actually found the local people not in unity, and that is also something which they exploited. And since they had powerful army, they had modern weapons, and they had better ways of fighting wars, that is why they were able to defeat the local rulers, and finally they set up their own rule. Once they set up their own rule, it became easy for them to drain all the resources of these colonies and to benefit more and more from them. So now let's talk about economic imperialism. As we know that this entire concept of imperialism originated from economy. It originated from trade, just because European traders wanted a new market for their finished product, wanted a new place where they could get raw material. So all these things contributed to this imperialism. So if you go by the definition, economic imperialism is the economic domination of one country by another country. And during this, the natural resources of the country which is made colony are exploited by the country which dominates and uses those natural resources for their own benefits. And it happened throughout Africa and Asia. And it is because of this economic imperialism that the capitalism actually came into being. Because these European traders, they earned more and more, they set up industries, factories, added them up, finally they grew rich, and there was a two class which emerged. One is the worker class, another is the industrial class. Discuss the last point, which is various forms of economic domination. Now, in order to bring these African and Asian countries under their hold, these European countries use different tactics. They use the political domination, they use the security reasons. They told the local rulers that if you support us, then we will help you in case of any invasion. And once they set up their base, then they started getting better and favorable business agreements. At the same time, once they got hold of the place, they started putting restrictions on the domestic trade of that place. So with the help of all these things, they finally dominated that place. They finally captured the place, ruled it as long as possible, and during this period, whatever they found profitable, beneficial advantages that they carried, and with the help of that, the imperialist nations became richer at the cost of the colonies in Asia and Africa.